There will now be an opportunity for silent prayer or meditation. Thank you. You may be seated. Order. 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 You ladies at the back, honorable members at the back, in your benches, Honorable Mazoni. Honorable Mazoni, will you please call to order the two young ladies at the back in your benches? Because I've been calling for order and they continue. This is not a restaurant. Honorable members, in the interest of safety for all present in the chamber, please keep your masks on and sit in your designated areas. Thank you. Now, the first item on today's order paper is questions addressed to the Deputy President. There are 4 supplementary questions on each question. Parties have given an indication of which questions their members wish to pose a supplementary question. Adequate notice was given to parties for this purpose. This was done to facilitate participation of members who are connecting to the sitting through the virtual platform. The members who will pose supplementary questions will be recognized by the presiding officer. In allocating opportunities for supplementary questions, the principle of fairness, amongst others, has been applied. If a member who is supposed to ask a supplementary question through the virtual platform is unable to do so due to technological difficulties, the party whip on duty will be allowed to ask the question on behalf of their member. When all the supplementary questions have been answered by the Deputy President, we will proceed to the next question on the question paper. Members asking supplementary questions or raising points of order may remain seated when doing so. The first question has been asked by the Honorable S. Gwahube, the Honorable the Deputy President. I'm sorry, Deputy President. Mkhalipi, Honorable Mkhalipi, on the virtual platform, you have your hand up.
Yes, Speaker, there is a very terrible noise coming from there. I think the IT must check because we couldn't hear you.
Okay, thank you very much. IT, will you please check that? Honorable Deputy President. Deputy President, you may take your seat whilst we are checking. IT, we are given 2 minutes to check. May we proceed? Honorable Mkhalipi, can you hear me now?
Yes, Speaker, we hear you, but the noise is still there. Maybe they can work on it.
Noise?
Yeah, there's a terrible feedback coming from that.
All right.
Yes.
Honorable members, IT, is everything okay at the back? May we proceed now? Thank you. Thank you. Honorable Kongubele, you had your hand up? Okay. It seems, honorable members, we are okay now. We proceed. Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. According to the President's response, ministers and deputy ministers have signed performance agreements. The President appoints the Deputy President and ministers and delegates responsibilities to them and has the power to remove them, as stated in Section 91, subsection 2 of the Constitution. Honorable Speaker, the performance agreements are meant to enable the President and the respective ministers and deputy ministers to effectively evaluate the assigned responsibility and to identify areas of concern. The current system is not determined to provide for the signing of performance agreement between the President and the Deputy President, whom you know very well is appointed to assist the President in the execution of the functions of government in accordance with Section 91, subsection 5 of the Constitution. However, the work of the Deputy President is evaluated against the responsibility that have been delegated by the President from time to time. Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker.
First supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Eskom from the Chamber.
Deputy President, performance agreements of ministers are meant to gauge and assess their performance within their portfolios, as you have alluded to in your response. But in order for these to be effective, continuous assessment must be done so that non-performing members of the executive can be removed from their positions. These assessments must be made public for transparency, but this does not seem to be the case, since clearly the commitment to have this done since 2019 was mere publicity stunt. In addition to this, the key functions, as you've stated, as the Deputy President and the President, you are to lead the country in the interests of national unity in accordance with the Constitution and the law. So based on the constitutional responsibility that the two of you have, would you agree that the admission by the President that millions of dollars on his private property that were stolen and not reported to the criminal justice system casts doubt on his ability to uphold the rule of law, which is his responsibility and yours, which is central to your role, and his ability to manage the cabinet?
Honorable the Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Well, correctly said that the performance agreements that we sign between the President and the ministers, deputy ministers, are meant to evaluate performance. And of course, the outcome of that evaluation is communicated to the relevant minister and the relevant deputy minister. So the President does that from time to time. I've never seen an incident where the President will do it public. It will be between the President and the respective minister after that performance assessment. The question that you are raising now about the developments of the issues around the farm robbery in the President's place, I think that has been reported to the police, and I take it that we should allow the respective law enforcement agencies to investigate without our interference, and finally made their investigation known. If they want to charge the president, they will do so at the proper time. So I think we should allow that process to unfold. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Deputy President. Order. 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 Honorable Kwakube. Honorable Kwakube. If I may raise this matter. No. Will you please listen? If I may raise this matter. Your follow-up question had absolutely nothing to do with the question you initially raised with the Deputy President. I just wish to draw your attention to that. The second supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable F.A. Masiko through the virtual platform. Yes?
Speaker, I'd like to
thank you very much, Speaker, and thank you.
What you've just referred to. If one casts their eye to the Guide to Procedure for 2004, page 196, 1.3, it's very clear on what the scope of questions can be asked to the President and to the Deputy President. And it is matters that the individual is responsible for or delegated to. Now, it's very clear that the Honourable Gwarube's follow-up was a keen part of what the President should or should not be doing with respect to performance agreements. And that if there is a question over his integrity or what has or hasn't happened in relation to the incident at his farm, it casts doubt on his ability to do that job. So the follow-up had absolutely everything to do with the original question, as in his line with the Guide to Procedure.
Thank you. Honorable Zakute.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the rules of the House are clear. A follow-up question must come out from the original question. So we cannot, as these members of Parliament, sneak in something that is not on the original question. So the honorable member knows the rules better. She's the Deputy Chief Whip of the opposition. So we cannot be opportunistic about bringing other things that are not necessarily in that question. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable. Honorable member, will you please take your seat? I did not recognize you. Take your seat. I have not recognized you. Will you please now lower your hand as I address you? Rule 142.6 says a supplementary question must arise directly from the original question and the reply given thereto, and may not constitute a new question. That is the rule, and I close that matter. Now, the Deputy President.
Honorable Speaker, I'm waiting for the next follow-up questions.
The next follow-up questions will be from Honorable F.A. Masiko.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, and thank you, Honorable Deputy President, for your response. Deputy President, in line with the Constitution of the Republic, the President has assigned the Deputy President delegated responsibilities for 2019-2024 term of government. This mainly includes providing political leadership as well as to ensure coordination. How does the Deputy President ensure that the institutions which are part of his delegated responsibilities implement their programs in accordance with their mandate? Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
The Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I think the honorable member will appreciate the fact that all the institutions and the structures that we are coordinating, they've got their own terms of reference in terms of what they must do, what they must perform. Ours, as the Office of the Deputy President, is just to coordinate the activities so that we achieve the desired goals speedily and ensure that there's effective service delivery from time to time. And after doing our work of coordinating the different departments and institutions, we report back to Cabinet about our activities. Thank you very much.
The third supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable OMC Maudwe through the virtual platform.
Thank you, Speaker. It's Mim Kalipi on behalf of Maudwe.
Proceed.
Deputy President, while the Constitution indicates that the functions of the Deputy President are determined by the President, Section 90 of the Constitution provides that should the President be unable to perform his duties for any reason, the Deputy President must be first in line to assume the responsibilities assigned to the President by the Constitution. Taking into account with the latest development of the difficult criminal clouds hanging over the President now, relating to allegations of money laundering, will you be ready to assume the responsibilities should he resign as provided for in the Constitution in relation to this criminal cloud hanging over the President's head? Will you attempt to convince him that staying in the office is not in the country's interest? Thank you very much, Speaker.
The Honorable the Deputy
I have
President.
no idea what the problem is.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I don't think we have reached that point. I don't think we have reached any point that seeks to say the President must step down. All I know is that a case has been opened and we've allowed the different institutions of our country to investigate and make a determination. And beyond that, probably a decision will be taken after a determination has been made, of which we can't probably jump the gun and say, this is going to be the determination. Thank you.
The Honorable, the last supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable N. Singh through the virtual platform.
I'm here, Madam Speaker. Honourable Speaker.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Sorry. Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Deputy President, I was a bit confused by the question in the first instance, because the question asked whether you signed an agreement with the Deputy President, a performance agreement, and the answer to that is no.
Yes.
You do not sign an agreement. It's the ministers and deputy ministers that sign. But being second in charge, Honourable Deputy President, I'm sure you must be aware of the methodology that's used to set performance targets for ministers and deputy ministers. Are you aware and do you work with the President in setting these targets? And are you satisfied that most, or if not all of them, are meeting the targets that have been set for them in their respective departments? Thank you.
Honorable the Deputy President.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. From where I'm sitting, I think I'm satisfied because I participate in all the processes. When the President is sitting, talking to individual ministers, I'm also present in that meeting. When the President is talking to individual deputy ministers, I also take part. So my duty is to support the President. So I'm quite aware of all the processes that we have put in place to set these performance agreements. Thank you very much.
I thank you, Deputy President. We proceed. Question 8 has been asked by the Honorable K.R.J. Mishwe.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. The World Health Assembly agreed at the special session, which was held on the 29th to the 1st of December 2021, to start a process of developing and negotiating a treaty on pandemic prevention, preparedness, and response. To this end, an intergovernmental negotiating body was set up to lead the negotiation and drafting of the treaty, in consultation with various stakeholders, including member states and civil society organizations. Drawing on the lessons that we have learned from responding to the COVID-19 pandemic, the proposed global pandemic treaty will complement the international health regulations. To this end, the agreement will seek to outline the objectives and fundamental principles necessary for effective collective action to fight against pandemic, address gaps in the current legal framework, and clarify roles and responsibility of states and international organizations, among others. It is envisaged that this global treaty will, among others, enhance surveillance of pandemic risk and alerts, ensure uninterrupted health supplies and services, and effective research and innovation for timely development of vaccines, treatment, and diagnostics, ensure better response mechanisms and implementation, as well as restore trust in the international health system. Currently, the Intergovernmental Negotiating Body is conducting consultation with stakeholders to produce a working draft of the treaty, which is due to be considered at its meeting later this year. The 76th session of the World Health Assembly in 2023 will receive a progress report on the draft treaty, with the plan for the treaty to be adopted in 2024. For South Africa, it is crucial that the treaty is anchored on human rights to ensure equitable access to various available medical solutions in order to improve the health and well-being of all our people, irregardless of their social standing and their geographical location. When it comes to international agreements, Section 231, subsection 1 of the Constitution is clear that the negotiation and signing of all international agreements is the responsibility of the national executive. Parliament will have a role in the ratification of the treaty once concluded. As international agreements become law after being approved by a resolution in both the National Assembly and the National Council of Provinces. This means that international agreements become national law only upon ratification by Parliament. Therefore, in this regard, it goes without saying that the Minister of Health is enjoined by the Constitution to submit the treaty to Parliament for consideration and approval. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
The first supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable K.R.J. Mishwe from the Chamber.
Thank you, Speaker and Deputy President. Public participation in lawmaking and agreements to any laws which are to be binding to citizens is a fundamental tenet of constitutional democracy that should never be ignored. Any law affecting a country and the right of citizens to self-determination should be subjected to public scrutiny and participation as well as parliamentary debates if constitutional democracy is to be preserved. The ACDP is grateful to the 47 African countries led by Botswana that refused to sign the amendments to the international health regulations this past week at the World Health Assembly in Geneva. My question to you, Deputy President, is whether after public participation, where opinions of citizens would have been solicited, you will ensure that a clear mandate is obtained from the National Assembly and given to the Health Minister and his officials not to sign the proposed amendments to the international health regulations, which, among others, would give additional powers to the World Health
Honorable
Organization.
Meshwe, your question, please, to the Deputy President. Question, please.
Yeah. I'm reading the question now, Speaker.
Yes, proceed.
I said my question to the Deputy President is whether after public participation where opinions of citizens would have been solicited, he will ensure that a clear mandate is obtained from the National Assembly and given to the Health Minister and his officials not to sign the proposed amendment to the international health regulations, which, among others, would give additional powers to the World Health Organization to unilaterally decide to impose decisions on nations of the world, thereby undermining their sovereignty.
Thank you very much, Honorable Meshwe.
Thank you.
The Honorable, the Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I think I've answered the question. Honorable Musha, I said the Minister of Health is enjoined by the Constitution after all the consultation, the negotiations with stakeholders, to finally bring that report to Parliament for consideration and approval. So Parliament will have an opportunity to deliberate on the report, on the proposed treaty, and make amendments where necessary before it becomes law. That's what I said.
The second supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable D.L. Muela from the Chamber.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Greetings to the Deputy President and all honorable members. Thank you, Deputy President, for your response, especially on Section 231 of the Constitution of the Republic that provides the negotiating and signing of all international agreements is the responsibility of the national executive. You have well captured that. But further than that, Deputy President, could the Deputy President outline the consideration that are usually made by the members of the executive in general when discussing the international treaties to ensure the advancement of our national interest? Thank you, Honorable Speaker and the Deputy President.
The Honorable, the Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Firstly, as we look at these international treaties, as a country, we consider first our national interests. So, as we discuss, make proposals, we do that in the interest of the country first. And secondly, we do this to deepen our integration into the global community. You'll understand from our past that South Africa has been excluded in these international bodies. So it's important for our participation to deepen our role as a country, our participation. And thirdly, to ensure that we protect the human rights of our people, following the standards that we set worldwide. So we need to set a standard as a country that will assume the standard of the world. If we want to be the best, we must compare ourselves with the best. But all in all, we want to elevate the human rights of our people, noting our past, from where we come from, where these rights were trampled upon by the system that we had to destroy. So moving forward, we need to elevate these rights and protect them. So these are the interests that we take into consideration as we discuss these treaties and take part in these international bodies. Thank you very much.
The third supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable M.O. Clark from the Chamber.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Deputy President. Just in terms of my follow-up question, to a certain degree you have answered the clarity I was seeking, but I would like to highlight that clear timeframes is set in terms of the draft treaty when it comes to Parliament, so it doesn't become an open-ended matter. So once that draft document is ready, whether you would set clear timeframes for it to serve to Parliament, so that we don't have the same issue we had during COVID, where there was no transparency during the COVID period and fraud and corruption was rife and Parliament had no oversight during that period of time. So if you could give me that guarantee, Deputy President, I'll be very happy. Thank you.
Honorable the Deputy President.
Thank you very much. The timetable and the time frames are set by the World Health Assembly, and they have determined exactly when do they want to conclude this treaty. So member states have been given an opportunity to go and discuss in their states, in their countries, consulting all stakeholders, which I think in the process you will also be consulted, you will have your own input. But before anything can happen to this treaty, it's going to be brought back to the House for your ratification, for your final approval. Thank you very much.
The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable N.V. Mende through the virtual platform.
Okay, Speaker, I will take it as well. Deputy President, as things stands, there is not even a test of the so-called global pandemic treaty. So the issue should not even arise. What is a concern, however, is the vaccine imperialism that has dominated the global response to the corona pandemic, which first led to Western countries hoarding the vaccine, and secondly, to these countries of delegitimizing any vaccine development from outside. Why has this country not acquired vaccine produced in China and Russia to fight the corona pandemic? Was this due to pressure applied by Western nations who want to monopolize the production and sale of vaccine in the world? Thank you, Speaker.
The Honorable the Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I think the World Health Organization has realized the amount of work that is needed to coordinate any pandemic, any outbreak of any pandemic, now learning from the COVID-19 experience. Therefore, they've decided to put down a proposal of developing this treaty so that in future we are better placed to manage any pandemic that might arise and ensure that developing communities, developing countries are also catered for, not like what we have seen in this COVID-19 pandemic, where developing countries were the last in the queue in terms of getting their vaccines. In future, we want to avoid this situation so that we are better prepared, that there should be an equitable distribution of these vaccines and ensure a comprehensive response that will benefit even developing nations. I think that is the essence of this treaty. It's just to promote working together and ensure that those that don't have the resources are also catered for. Thank you very much.
Question 9 has been asked by the Honorable A.M. Tseki, the Honorable the Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. The destruction of infrastructure and loss of lives in the floods-affected areas calls on us to ensure that as we rebuild, we do that better and differently. We acknowledge that the current spatial distribution patterns and water management systems were not designed to handle several natural disasters as experienced in the affected provinces. This calls for a rigorous redesign of our spatial arrangements and proper maintenance of our drainage systems to prevent it from clogging up. Already, prior to these unfortunate floods, government through the Department of Water and Sanitation has already started a process to investigate potential impact of projected climate change disasters that are caused by extreme rainfall and tropical cyclones. To this end, government has put in place interventions to post-flood reconstruction of the infrastructure in the affected provinces. A war room by the Department of Water and Sanitation has been established as part of the short-term intervention to assist these communities with water supply and sanitation system. This will address current challenges to communities in the affected areas, whilst essential services are being replaced and repaired. This water and sanitation war room will, in the short term, ensure the provision of relief measures to vulnerable communities through the hired water tankers for a period of 90 days that complement the supply of water to the affected municipalities, while water services are restored and infrastructure is repaired. Assistance to the affected provinces to implement immediate interventions in order to stabilize water supply and sanitation system. Avail engineering services from the Department of Water and Sanitation, as well as from affected municipalities, to repair or replace essential water and sanitation services infrastructure so that full water supply is returned to normality. The Department of Water and Sanitation has dispatched a full team of multidisciplinary engineers and technical experts to assess and cost the flood damage. The team will also prepare a report for the Department of Water and Sanitation and the National Treasury, which will include a full cost estimate of the damage caused by the flood so that adequate resources are allocated to the rehabilitation projects. The IMC on water and sanitation will continue to monitor these projects and ensure that political oversight is in place to support coordinated efforts to complete these projects. In the medium to long term, particularly for the purposes of better preparedness in the vulnerable areas, the response will be to invest in climate-proof infrastructure, including climate-sensitive drainage system. Furthermore, Municipal Infrastructure Support Agency technical support services to municipalities will ensure that spatial allocation is reshaped, resulting in better access to safer settlements, economic prospects, and long-term infrastructure provision. Most importantly, local government will need to communicate information to populations and communities living in flood-prone areas, as well as provide early warning systems and improve spatial design that is sensitive to environmental conditions in order to build resilience. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The first supplementary question will be asked
Honorable
by
Speaker.
the Honorable A.M. Tseki from the chamber.
Honorable Speaker,
Yes, there is a voice. Where are you?
I'm here.
Oh, thank you.
The Honorable Speaker, there are members in the opposition benches who are not wearing masks. Can you please request them to comply to the COVID protocols?
Thank you very much. Kwenzenjani ngoku? Phela phansi kuthi.
Kitobua, don't
Okay.
be chachara. Papa wena.
Honorable Member.
How?
Yes. Honorable Khatebe. Honorable Khatebe. Honorable Khatebe. Yes.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Mashele is drawing to attention that there are members of the opposition who are not wearing their mask. I'm very happy she's wearing the mask now. Honorable Sheikh Imam was not wearing the mask and it's against the regulations of COVID-19. Please let them do that. And then Honorable McPherson is not a shop steward of the opposition. He cannot interject when the calls of orders are
Okay,
made.
take
Thank
your
you.
seat now. The first supplementary question
On a point of order.
will be asked by the
On a
Honorable
point of
Tseki.
order, Madam Speaker.
Point of order?
Madam Speaker, I rise on point of order, point 97. You know, there is a time and a place for a point of order. And the honourable member stood up and actually called Mr. McPherson Chachara. And we have decided that that is an unparliamentary word to use in this House. But I didn't stand up unnecessarily because we have our Deputy President standing in front of us. So let's show some respect to the Deputy President and not act like children in the House and respect one another. And if you have a problem with one of my members, please let me know and I will sort it out. But the Deputy President deserves the respect to answer the questions today. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Mazoni. Honorable members, Chachara, I don't know, but don't use that term again. Chachara, no. Okay. Honorable Tseki. Honorable
Thank
Tseki,
you.
please proceed.
Yeah. Two wrongs don't make right.
Ask your question.
Ke a leboha motsamaiso wa dipuisano. Ndabo President. Early warning system are important if we are about to mitigate the unknown impact of climate change, disaster, and our science and innovation entities such as the Space Weather Center, the South African Weather Service, and other institutions have those capabilities. Therefore, drawing from the experience of the recent floods, how will government ensure that affected communities are settled at areas that won't be flood prone and prohibit those who attempt to build in flood prone areas? How will government strengthen its responses capabilities to disaster early warnings, alerts, as this has a major impact in the agility of mitigating the impact? Ke a leboha, President.
The Honorable the Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. The Honorable Member will realize that the second round of the flooding, the provincial government and the municipalities in the area were well prepared. People were evacuated and placed in areas of safety beforehand. I think we need to strengthen those institutions and communications so that we save our people. Going forward, we are going to strengthen our early warning systems, and we are able to reach our people in the far-flung areas where there is no network communication. So we are going to try our best to ensure that we save our people, but as we relocate our people to safer places, we are going to do so and ensure that we are not going to rebuild human settlements in areas that are prone to disasters. Care should be taken by both the provincial government as well as the metros and municipalities, so that this cannot repeat itself. And also going forward, as we build our roads, we build our water infrastructure, we should take into consideration that one day there will be floods. So we need to put infrastructure that is better prepared to withstand the changing weather conditions. Thank you very much.
The second supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable L.J. Passon from the Chamber.
From virtual, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Deputy President, KwaZulu-Natal is still waiting for Treasury to cough up 1 billion of flood relief funds for the reconstruction of infrastructure promised by President Cyril Ramaphosa 2 months ago. Durban's economy has taken a major blow, and now the eThekwini municipality must borrow 500 million to fix the city's infrastructure that was damaged by the recent floods. The damaged infrastructure has led to the decline in revenue and has the potential of undermining the confidence of current and future investors, undermining the city's growth prospects. eThekwini needs the money to deliver services, but government is not coming to the party, and now ratepayers must pay for government's failure. Deputy President, why must they borrow money, and how are you going to assist the Metro to fix these infrastructure? Thank you, Deputy President.
The Honorable the Deputy President.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. From what I know, progress that has been made, a number of departments are already intervening in the area. I'm aware of the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure in terms of the bridges in the area. I'm aware of the work that is done by the Department of Water and Sanitation. I'm aware of the work that is done by the Department of Transport, just to name a few. But there is a working together between the provincial government as well as National Treasury. The provincial government has been directed to reprioritize its budget. A number of areas like the Department of Health has managed to reprioritize money to go and fix some of the clinics. Departments of Public Works, Roads and Transport managed to reprioritize money. So that work is progressing very well, and National Treasury is working together with the province to identify grants that were meant for the province, and those grants are put aside to support the metro as well as the municipalities. That's the progress that I can give. But if possible, Speaker, we can give a clear account in terms of all the projects that are undertaken on the ground. Well, I'm aware that there's still communities that are still housed in community halls, city halls, and the Department of Human Settlement, together with the province, are doing everything possible to build houses for those communities, and in a short space of time, they will be resettled their new homes. Thank you very much.
The third supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable T. Briet through the virtual platform.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. A great amount of government resources, money and focus will be spent on the flood-stricken areas of the Northwest, Eastern Cape and KZN. The disaster has been devastating and as much as possible needs to be done to assist. It is, however, well known that this Interministerial Committee on Water and Sanitation has not only been brought into being by these most recent floods. Many commitments, specifically sewage related, have been made to address and processes started in other municipalities regarding water and sanitation crises that are not in these affected flood areas. How, Honourable Deputy President, will you ensure that these commitments are not left forgotten and these communities left exposed to human rights violations due to the need for water and a healthy environment without sewage pollution? I thank you.
Honourable the Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. Cabinet is getting a progress report from time to time on what is happening on the ground. But I want this House to appreciate the extent of the problem. As we are trying to relocate people, we're trying to find the missing people. So all these things are happening concurrently as we try to fix, as we try to bring some services to the people, we're trying to find the missing people. So it's very hard, but that is not an excuse not to move faster. So we want to promise the people of KZN that government is going to do better and we are going to up our pace in terms of resolving some of the issues that are confronted by these communities, especially building long-lasting houses for them. We know that they are pulling hard in terms of housing their families. These temporary places are not good for families. And I'm sure people will appreciate the fact that government is trying everything in its power to ensure that we restore these places to normality, given the difficult financial situations that we find ourselves in. Thank you very much.
The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable A.M. Sheikh.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Deputy President, you say that the infrastructure was not developed for disasters of this nature. But between 1980 and 2010, there were 77 floods in KwaZulu-Natal alone. Now my question is, and I don't believe money is the only solution to the problems in KwaZulu-Natal. 8 years ago when I was a councillor there, the water loss was 27%. Today it's sitting there at 52%. That is how the infrastructure is crumbling. So the question is, if you're going to rely on the same skills, the same expertise, the same people that failed in all these years to ensure that there were proper maintenance for this infrastructure, how are we going to sort the problem out now? Right now, the infrastructure is beyond rehabilitation. It means you have to put new infrastructure, particularly in the water and sanitation sector. Thank you.
Honourable the Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. In trying to assess the damage that was caused by the floods, we set up a team of engineers to go and assess the situation. And what was wrong with the current infrastructure, what was wrong with the current drainage system, and I'm sure they are putting a report together to say, this is what was wrong, and as you rebuild, you need to redesign better so that you can accommodate flooding and some difficult weather conditions that from time to time may come. So I'm confident that as we move forward, we'll have learned something from this disaster especially. This one was the worst, and I think we should take some lessons and try and do better. As we build a road, we must know that this area is prone to flooding. As we build a bridge, we must know that this area is prone to flooding. So we need to redesign the way we lay out our infrastructure, we lay out our roads, our buildings. I'm sure you'll have appreciated the seriousness of the situation where a building, a church building, moved. The foundation and everything moved. I don't think those who designed that building had anticipated this problem. So as we go forward, I think we need to change our way of building so that we move with the time. Climate change is here and it's real. Thank you very much.
Question number 10 has been asked by the Honorable A.M. Sheikh Imam. The Honorable the Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, we remain committed to ensuring the dignity of every South African, and we will continue to visit every part of the country, including Tsitsikamma, to trigger the necessary development where specific interventions at the level of the presidency are required. For instance, in April 2021, we visited the area and handed over land to the community of Kovi village after a successful land settlement claim. The land has been lost when it was declared part of the Tsitsikamma National Park. Fishing rights, food security, lack of economic prospects, and agricultural support are all issues that communities are facing. Given the land's characteristics, it should be used successfully for commercial and agricultural purposes. The Kovi community food security and livelihood are mainly reliant on coastal resources, and the area offers abundant agricultural and ecotourism potential. As part of our post-settlement assistance, we emphasized the government's focus on agricultural support initiatives to ensure the productive and sustainable use of the land, as well as the provision of critical service delivery infrastructure, such as roads, electricity, water, and sanitation to support economic mobility and improve the life of the community. The national and provincial governments committed to implementing cohesive intervention measures to address some of the difficulties that are faced by the Tsitsikamma communities in accordance with our delegated responsibilities on land reform and agriculture. Specifically exploiting the area's economic potential by also focusing on non-agricultural business like tourism, as well as promoting small business ventures to make the Tsitsikamma village thrive. However, we must agree that limited resources continue to be a significant hindrance to exploring such possibilities. Notwithstanding such hindrances, the following progress has been made since the handover, Honorable Speaker. The Community Property Association collaborated with the National Department of Agriculture and Rural Development and the Department of Agriculture in the province to design the establishment of pastures totaling 50 hectares in order to reintroduce cattle farming in the area. The Department of Social Development has opened a community nutrition and development center which provide foods and daycare services to the community. In collaborations with the Sun Parks, the COVI CPA has focused on reviving the Honey Bush Tea Project. The COVI CPA has formed a partnership with a private developer and signed a memorandum of agreement to form a venture for the development of both commonage and allotments. 12.3 million was transferred to the COVI CPA in consideration of the compensation of land that could not be transferred to the community because it belongs to Sun Park. A follow-up visit to the Tsitsikamma area will be beneficial to assess the development and impact of our post-settlement support. Our visit should focus on the additional support needed to improve the economic prospects for the people surrounding the Tsitsikamma National Park, both provinces in the Eastern Cape side and the Western Cape side. In order for our land reform and rural development program to be successful, we must focus our support and interventions on the integration of our country's rural areas, which must be complemented by agricultural and infrastructural development to ensure sustainable rural communities and livelihoods. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
The first supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable A.M. Sheikh Imam.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Deputy President, allow me to thank you for the initiatives you've already put in place. However, many challenges still exist in that area, given the fact that right from Tsitsikamma right up to just before Port Elizabeth, the levels of poverty are very high. High levels of unemployment in that area, substance abuse and things. But there are still opportunities for like growing of maize, wheat, poultry, farming and things. And I think what the community needs a push. They need some assistance from government to come there to be able to put these initiatives in place and drive these processes forward. There's lots of land available. People are willing to do that. So will you consider then at some stage in free space in your diary that you pay a visit there and try and engage with the communities and see if we can create some further development, given the fact that wheat is a crisis in South Africa with the Russia-Ukraine war? Thank you, Deputy President.
Honourable the Deputy President.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. The Department of Agriculture nationally and in both provinces, they are doing very well in trying to support the community that has been given back their land. On the other side, in the Eastern Cape side, you would appreciate the fact that the provincial government has supported that community to upgrade their dairy farms and to ensure that they get some pastures. And they were supported to rebuild some of the infrastructure that was not there, some of the roads that were not there. So we want to thank the Eastern Cape provincial government. The Western Cape government has supported the COVI community, and we are going to join the Western Cape provincial government in the building of the allotments and the commonages for tourism. So there are a lot of opportunities available, especially economic activities that are related to the sea, tourism, and all the resources that are in the sea, like your fishing. These people, they feed themselves from day to day from fishing. So they are going to be supported. And I'm sure they are going to be given fishing licenses so that they can fish for productive use. They can open up their businesses. That area that has been resettled to the community is a very prime area for tourism, for agriculture. All we need is to consistently support the communities to make use of that land for their own benefit. Thank you very much.
The second supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable S.S. Somyo from the Chamber.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thanks to the Deputy President for giving us information of the ultimate benefit of the communities in that area. I have had a good experience on my driveway towards the Eastern Cape recently, and I went into the area, meeting the community there. They're very excited to have a benefit of that nature. The land itself is pristine. The environment is well kept, virgin, in a sense of how the government have taken to give it over as it is to those communities there is a very good gesture of ensuring that through preservation, our communities could have a taste of the natural environs. The question which remains is to how government generally, led by yourself, would keep the current land use purpose and to the minimum, somewhat keep the disruption on the planned development in as far as the natural environment is concerned. Thank you very much, Deputy President.
The Honorable the Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Well, we are confident that going forward, the land is going to be utilized in a very responsible manner because of the relationship between the people and SANPark. SANPark is helping the community around to preserve certain areas, to preserve certain trees for conservation. But again, SANPark is helping the community around to develop projects that in a way can sustain the environment. Like the project that we've mentioned, this honey tea. This honey tea is going to be grown there under the supervision of SANPark so that the environment is kept up to scratch, it's not destroyed. Again, I'm sure the Department of Tourism would want to come closer to ensure that as we attract tourists in the area, we do that really without destroying the very essence of that environment, the beauty of that environment. I'm sure the Department of Agriculture, nationally, and the two provinces will do their agricultural activities, keeping in mind that that area is bordering some conservation areas that must be kept for future generations. Thank you very much.
Before I proceed to invite the honorable member who asked the next supplementary question, I wish to caution honorable members against making long statements, because you make long statements and you finish your time and then you go over time to ask your questions. Please don't put me in that situation, honorable members. Thank you very much. The third supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable E.N. Tlangwini through the virtual platform.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. It's me again, Mkalipi, on behalf of Honorable Ntlangwini. Deputy President, last week there was a land tenure summit hosted which addressed issues relating to access to and tenure to land. Land is the single most important determinant of opportunities for rural people. Deputy President, in 2010, the Constitutional Court struck down the Communal Land Rights Act, CLARA, because it gives more powers to traditional leaders in relation to land in the rural areas. Does your government have plans to revive CLARA type of legislation? If you do, what lesson have you learned from CLARA in relation to rights of rural people to their own land, and how will these people be protected from traditional leaders who sell off pieces of land to commercial enterprises? Thank you, Speaker.
The Honorable the Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. The Communal Land Tenure Summit that was held in the main was trying to find a very peaceful and permanent way of dealing with land in our communal areas. Of course, there's a voice from the people living in those communities that they want to own this land. There are traditional councils that also see it very different, to say this land must belong to the traditional council. We've got kings and queens that they've got a different view. So we've made proposals to the summit. Now, there are varying options that are available to all of us. And it was quite clear at the end of the summit that we can't have one size that will fit all. Different communities might want a different policy option. Other communities might be suitable with a different policy options. So as we move forward, we are going to present the proposal from that summit, present them to Cabinet for further guidance, so that finally we can develop the necessary legislation that will seek to accommodate the tenure system in our communal areas. But going forward, we are going to recognize our traditional leaders and their traditional systems. We are going to recognize our traditional communities with all their customs and values. So we'll find a middle ground and ensure that people can utilize this land productively for their economic activities, so that they can better their lives. So that discussion is ongoing, and we're approaching a point where we're going to legislate these policy options. Thank you very much.
The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable W.M. Thring through the virtual platform.
Thank you, thank you, Speaker. Honorable Deputy President, there are many tsitsikamas dotted and spread throughout South Africa in need of economic development, job creation, and small business development. Areas such as Marion Ridge, Mpola, Chilinyama, Dassenhoek, Kwandengezi are such areas. The main road leading to these areas, called Milky Way, has been completely destroyed by the floods recently, and trucks and other vehicles having to drive through the residential area of Marion Heights, Marion Ridge, adding to the economic hardships of the residents, and as well as damaging the road infrastructure. The president of the ACDP, Reverend Dr. Kenneth Meshwe, visited some of these areas. Now, as the leader of government business, Honorable Deputy President, what guarantees or assistance, if any, can you give to the residents of these areas that I mentioned that, like Tsitsikama, are also desperately in need of economic development? Thank you.
The Honorable the Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I think all the Tsitsikamas who are scattered all over, they must go back to their place. We have given them back the land that they must go and utilize. So wherever they are, they must go back. They've got the land now, they've got something that they can work on. But on a serious note, we want to assure that community that would continuously support them until they've reached a point where they are self-sustainable. We're going to assist them with the infrastructure, like I said, the roads inside there, water infrastructure, sanitation. We are going to assist them to till the land. We are going to assist them to keep livestock and to do a number of projects that can define their economic way of life. So support to that community is guaranteed. And I think they have now in the bank, they've got 12.3 million of money that we're paying them for the land that we could not restitute because it's within the park. So they've got money in their hands. They can plan for some of the projects. But of course, the two governments, the Western Cape government and the Eastern Cape government, they've committed to assist. Department of Agriculture and Rural Development is also taking part and assisting these communities to make use of this land. Thank you very much.
Question number 11 has been asked by the Honorable S.T. Maneli. The Honorable, the Deputy President.
Honorable Speaker, as government, we are cognizant of the negative impact of load shedding on the country's economy and the inconvenience and the hardship it causes to the country. However, load shedding is a last resort lever to protect the system from blackout, which is a total loss of the electricity network. Government has created a regulatory environment that is conducive to opening up the market for alternative power generation. Within the framework of the 2019 Integrated Resource Plan, alternative energy generation measures are being explored and implemented to augment the electricity supply and improve the stability of the grid. Furthermore, the Minister of Mineral Resources and Energy has issued determinations on the required new generation capacity in concurrence with the National Energy Regulator of South Africa. We must make the point that Eskom's load shedding is not as a result of limited market role for alternative power generation, but mainly as a result of breakdowns encountered from the old and aging power generation infrastructure. An improvement in the reliability and predictability of the coal fleet requires adequate financial resources and generation capacity surplus on the system to execute the required additional reliable maintenance. To achieve this, Eskom is driving the generation turnaround program. As coal-fired units and stations are going to be shut down, it is essential that new generation capacity be added to the grid to ensure energy security. Overall, Honorable Speaker, the country has an immediate need of 4,000 to 6,000 megawatts additional generation capacity with immediate effect. To this end, the following interventions have been implemented. As part of our Just Energy Transition Strategy, Eskom proposed an extra 8,000 megawatts of clean energy projects to be added to the grid over the next 2 to 5 years. This is a mix of greenfield renewable and gas projects, as well as coal power plant repurposing. Government is also considering various changes which will speed up the acquisition of independent power producers and to reduce further red tape. An announcement in this regard will be made once all the necessary tasks have been completed. In addition, Eskom has presented a transmission development plan to meet the country's capacity demands, which calls for the construction of 8,000 kilometers of line in the next 10 years. This project will necessitate substantial funding, which Eskom has proposed as part of the Just Transition financing and the regulatory support for land and servitude acquisition. Eskom has proposed a holistic approach to decarbonization and environmental compliance by accelerating the retirement of aging and unreliable coal plants as part of its commitment to the country's Just Energy Transition Plan. This will be done in a manner that is both socially and environmentally responsible. Coordination across all tiers of government is critical in achieving our just transition, as it will ensure energy supply stability and provide the much needed reprieve from the detrimental effects of load shedding in the future. Honorable Speaker, in accordance with our constitutional and international commitments, we want to reiterate our commitment to establishing a socially inclusive decarbonization growth path that prioritizes environmental sustainability. Climate change, it's here with us and it is an existential threat to all of us, and South Africa is committed to assisting in the reduction of global emissions. To this end, the President formed the Presidential Climate Commission, which will advise on the country's climate change response, support a just transition to a low-carbon, climate-resilient economy and society. The Presidential Climate Commission encourages debate among social partners on these challenges, identifying the type of economy and society we want to attain, and outlining the comprehensive path to get there. The Presidential Commission has created a framework for a just transition, which allows for a discussion of practical concerns such as jobs, local economies, skills, social support, and governance. The framework is based on the country's current body of knowledge, as well as the National Development Plan's vision. Our transition must maintain policy alignment across all levels of government, including the current climate change bill that is before Parliament. As a country, we must guarantee that we implement new infrastructure, technologies, and solutions that allow us to meet the ambient air quality standards, while also safeguarding community members from the negative impact of environmental externalities. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
The first supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable S.T. Maneli from the Chamber.
Yabulela Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Deputy President, for the response. The interventions which are being undertaken will go a long way in ensuring that there are no electricity disruptions to the people and the economy. It is also encouraging to hear about the interventions with regard to just energy transition. My question, however, is what is the level of interest from the independent power producers to take advantage of the opportunities provided by the government through various bid windows to provide additional energy to the grid. Thank you, Deputy President, and thank you, Speaker.
Honorable the Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. The independent power producers are very excited. Of course, they are participating. And to date, they've almost connected 1,800 megawatts to the grid. So gradually, they are coming into the party. Of course, not at the speed that we're expecting to solve our current problems of load shedding, but we can guarantee that the future is going to be better with these independent power producers, renewable energies that are from time to time connected to the grid. All the announcements that have been made by the Minister of Mineral and Resources, allowing all these bid windows to contribute power to the grid, finally, that is going to give us more energy for the future. We are hoping that all those independent power producers who have been given these projects can speed up the development of these projects and connect to the grid, because South Africans, as we speak, need more and more energy. Thank you very much.
The second supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable W. Boshoff through the virtual.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair and Honorable Deputy President. I would like to know if we should expect anytime soon a completely deregulated electricity market where the actual where the smart network is able to calculate the actual availability of power and the demand for electricity at a specific time and calculate a price according to that. So in fact, to remove all market failures out of a regulated market. And I just want to add to that, if we really take the whole question of climate change seriously, one should actually encourage renewables by even subsidizing it if one takes a long-term perspective. But in South Africa, coal is still, in a sense, protected by a regulatory framework that limits the entrance of renewables into the network. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
The second supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable, the Deputy President. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Well, I think as we stand here, I think the market is gradually opening up. Firstly, for renewables, all these independent power producers are now allowed to generate energy and connect it to the grid. We've also allowed municipalities to generate their own energy. Yes, I can say we are opening up this market so that Eskom must not remain a monopoly. And I'm sure down the line, we are going to open for more and more players, like we've done with the private sector, businesses that can generate up to 100 megawatts. So yes, we are constantly opening up this market, but in a very responsible manner. Thank you very much.
The third supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable NLS Kwangwa through the virtual platform.
Speaker, thank you very much. DP, you are aware of the severe impact of load shedding on the South African economy, which causes loss of output of approximately 700 million rands per day, according to estimates, and also contributes to massive job losses in the country. Now, you'll recall that the shareholder strategic intent outlined government's short to medium term, and long-term objectives for Eskom. I want to ask, since this shareholder strategic intent has been adopted a long time ago, whether government does indeed hold Eskom to account to ensure that these objectives which are outlined in the intent, firstly, are implemented, and that secondly, the destruction of Eskom is not linked to an allegation that some of these independent power producers have some politically connected individuals, meaning they have a vested interest in the destruction of Eskom. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Deputy President.
Thank you very much. Well, the load shedding is a situation that I think is not desirable for this economy. And we understand the frustration that our people are facing on a daily basis as we are going through this load shedding. We've explained a number of times, more or less, the reasons. Of course, South Africans don't want to hear the reasons, they want to hear solutions. But maybe it's important, once again, to reaffirm the reasons that account for load shedding. We've got a new build infrastructure that has got design effect like your Medupi and Kusile, which already by now should have given us, they should be operating in full steam, full capacity. But because of the design effects, there are some units in Kusile and Medupi that are still not functional. That is reducing our capacity. Again, we've got these power plants that have gone beyond their lifespan. We're pushing them very hard, and the maintenance bill has gone high. In order to maintain these power plants, it's becoming more and more expensive for Eskom. Of course, the unplanned breakages in these plants disrupts the plan for Eskom to do proper maintenance that is scheduled. Now, that is why Eskom will announce load shedding in the middle of the night, because a certain plant has broken down. This is not according to the planned outages that is planned by Eskom. Be that as it may, the plan that we have put forward in terms of our IRP 2019, we've allowed the different energy alternatives to come into play. In the main, we've allowed renewables. That has been a long journey. From bid window 1, we are now at bid window 5, 6, 7, we continue. But like I said, this is not giving us the energy that we require like now. We're getting it in bits and pieces, and load shedding continues to be with us. But I want to assure South Africans that the plan that we have now will give us reliable energy in a space of 9 months. We're going to pursue these independent power producers to bring their energy into the grid. We're going to allow Eskom to consider putting a coal-powered plant. Of course, we are aware of the carbon emissions Maybe we are going to find some technologies that will reduce the emissions, but we're going to use what is available, the abundant coal resources that we have. We're targeting a 1,500 megawatt that we're going to use from coal. But we're also targeting 3,000 from gas to power.
Thank you.
I think this will be in a position to give us some immediate relief if we act with the speed and urgency that it deserves. Yes, it's not a solution if people want to hear that load shedding is going to end tonight. It's not something that is going to give us end load shedding tonight. But yes, down the line, there are prospects of ending load shedding. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy President. The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable KJ Maina.
House Chairperson, unfortunately, Mr. Malam is unavailable to ask the question, so I do believe he's asked the better half to do it on his behalf. Deputy President, I'm sure that you would agree that getting more megawatts onto the grid is the #1 priority for South Africa in terms of electricity and energy. One of the challenges that various independent power producers and industry bodies have and have identified is the local content requirements. In fact, Eskom CEO Andre de Ruyter has agreed and noted that it was driving prices up as well as leading to a shortfall in capacity as local solar panel manufacturers cannot meet demand. Deputy President, in your capacity as leader of government business, will you take steps to ensure that this is protectionist and job-killing requirement is removed and that IPPs and Eskom are allowed to purchase their equipment and from whatever supplier they choose, whether local or international, and that they meet their requirements? And if you do not agree to that, why don't you? Thank you so much.
Deputy President.
Thank you very much. Well, my role as leader of government business only confine my work in Parliament, not really in government business. We've got Minister Patel, who's responsible to coordinating the business that government does with the private sector. This is really a concern that has been noted that some of the components that these independent power producers need to assemble and get these plants up and going are not readily available, and it takes time to source them, and therefore making it very difficult in terms of the time frame to deliver these projects. Be that as it may, that is going to be work in progress, but there is commitment in terms of those independent power producers to do whatever possible in their powers to ensure that they deliver these projects on time so that this energy can be connected to the grid. We are not relying on them, we are pushing ahead. Like I'm saying, Eskom must also take a responsibility to enter this renewable space. Eskom must be able to do solar energy. Eskom must be able to do wind. This is not restricted. This space is not restricted to independent power producers only. Eskom can also play in the space. But beyond that, Eskom can play in the space of gas, as well continue with coal, but ensure that there are technologies that will limit the emissions of carbon from our coal products. Yes, as much as we want to really deal with the frustrations in terms of the supply and demand of all these components that are needed in the renewables, it will depend on the market processes, which you hope business is better placed to push for these components to be delivered on time, depending on the agreements with their suppliers. The situation definitely is going to improve. And finally, we are going to deliver these plants, not at the time when we needed them most, but finally these plants are going to be delivered. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, the Honorable Deputy President. The last question has been asked by the Honorable N.W.A. Mazzoni. The Honorable Mazzoni, Deputy President.
Thank you, House Chair. House Chair, we have since witnessed an incredible outpouring of solidarity and cooperation from a diverse range of stakeholders, including individuals, organizations, business, and agencies in the aftermath of the floods that resulted in massive loss of lives and livelihoods, destruction of property and infrastructure, displacement of families, particularly in KZN. As government, we want to commend and applaud these cooperative efforts from all the good Samaritans that have donated in kind. Our government's response to this catastrophic calamity is three-pronged, as summarized as follows. Immediate humanitarian relief, ensuring that all the affected people, firstly, are safe and that their basic needs are met wherever they are. Secondly, stabilization and recovery, which includes finding a shelter for these people who have lost their homes and restoring service provision. And finally, the reconstruction and rehabilitation with the focus of building back and building better. The first phase of the three-pronged approach has mostly focused on providing urgent humanitarian relief, ensuring that all affected people are safe and that their basic needs are satisfied. As much as we do that, providing urgent humanitarian relief, we are also proceeding to find the missing people. This has been hindered by the return of our floods in eThekwini municipality and nearby areas over the past 2 weeks. In this case, we want to applaud the Premier and the KwaZulu-Natal provincial government for their efforts to expedite recovery and reconstruction in the affected area. Collaboration of all spheres of government and organs of state continues to improve the situation on the ground, not at the required pace, of course. It is a difficult situation, and we want to appeal for appreciation of the complexity of what we are confronted with. As phase 2 of our intervention, government is making headway with stabilization and recovery actions, including rehousing those who have been displaced and restoring basic services. This is still an early stage. Like I've said before, there are some families that are still housed in city halls and places that are not conducive for a family to live. As previously mentioned, the Department of Water and Sanitation has established a water and sanitation war room to assist the province in the affected areas, particularly at eThekwini Metropolitan Municipality, in the restoration of water services and addressing water and infrastructure-related challenges. To this end, water supply restoration has progressed in many regions of eThekwini, with the exception of the Tongati supply system, which remains a major challenge. You might have seen communities very unhappy about that system. This is due to the critical water infrastructure that was badly destroyed. We are advised that the restoration of the Tongati waterworks is expected to take 3 to 6 months to complete. In this regard, we appreciate the intervention being made by the South African National Defence Force. As we are speaking, they are on the ground, especially in providing water to social facilities in the area. This has ensured that schools remain functional and our learners are not adversely affected during this examination season. Our words of appreciation also goes to NGOs and private sector that has lent support to the needy household, especially for the elderly. Since all affected people should be taken care of without losing a single day of their lives without basic necessities, the criticism that the process has been slow, it's expected and it's well placed. However, the severity of the situation necessitates time to fix all this. Even with all the difficulties that we face in the area, we want to appraise this House that affected municipalities and government departments have been conducting technical assessment of the damage and the costs and recommending some short, medium, and long-term measures to address the situation. Last month, the national government received the coordinated response intervention and requested funds for both essential and emergency repairs, as well as long-term solutions to restore normality to the affected areas. National Treasury has issued a directive outlining public management and budgeting systems that will be used in the event of the national disaster to guarantee that services to the impacted communities are not disrupted. Affected provincial departments and municipalities have already begun to the process of reprioritizing their budgets and submitting requests to the National Disaster Management Center for the relocation of or repurposing of funds in conditional grants, focusing primarily on humanitarian relief and emergency repairs of critical infrastructure such as water, waste management, electricity, roads, and some engineering infrastructure, as well as social services such as healthcare facilities. Honorable Chairperson, will continue to monitor and assist land identification processes by the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure so that we move with the housing initiatives by the Department of Human Development to relocate all the affected communities into safe areas. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy President. The first supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Matsori from the chamber.
Deputy President, thank you for your answer. And I must say, what you say sounds noble and it sounds very well intentioned. But you have to admit that what we've seen in terms of corruption during COVID and otherwise, we are going to have to keep an extra close eye on what we do with relief measures in KZN. And there are a few things that I've noticed that have really terrified me. And my colleague, Dean McPherson, who is the DA chairperson in KZN, got me some facts that most of the rivers in KZN are being marked red, which means that they are in critical condition and that their E. coli levels are extremely dangerous. Others are orange, which means the E. coli levels are high, and few are given green, which means they're acceptable. Now, the one good thing that we have going is that there are 199 sites that have been identified as emergency shelters, and 65 of these centres have actually been approved for permanent stay structures. Now, we have this task team that is going to KZN, that is going to overlook relief measures. Can we expect that this task team will be given all tender details, cost details, and details about water safety, which in turn make sure that we have human safety, and that you will bring that information to Parliament for us to scrutinise, so that we can make sure that we never ever have a repeat of the corruption that we've seen in the past?
Honourable Member, the Honourable Deputy President.
Thank you, Honourable House Chair. Certainly, we are going to bring information to Parliament. We'll evaluate progress on the ground from time to time. I'm sure you'll also undertake your own oversight visits, but we'll endeavor to provide Parliament with the necessary information. We must assure this House that we are going to try everything in our power to prevent corruption. But remember, as we plan, as we work, there are those that are planning somewhere to steal. So we must be wiser and be faster and be better than them, so that we avoid these public resources to be stolen. We want to assure that we're going to deal with corruption where we find it. Whoever is going to steal government money, public resources, those people are going to be dealt with. As sitting here, because one day we might come back and say, we told you that some people are going to steal money. We're going to try our best and ensure that no money is stolen. We're going to put our risk mitigation measures to ensure that these funds are protected. But where they try to steal, we're going to chase them, we're going to arrest them. So I'm giving this assurance that we're going to work smarter and better to ensure that public resources are safe this time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, the Honourable Deputy President. The second supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Mutambe through the visual platform. Order, honourable members.
Thank you, Honourable House Chairperson. Deputy President, given that we are already experiencing the predicted strong and frequent life-threatening weather events in the form of storms, landslides, floods, droughts, and heat waves, what is the government doing to capacitate those rural municipalities with no tax base, particularly where there are high levels of poverty and vulnerabilities, to have access to smart early warning system, build a more climate and disaster resilient society, an efficient and well-capacitated rapid response system. Thank you so much, House Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The Honourable Deputy President.
Thank you very much. I think the first and foremost thing that we must take into consideration is how we build our human settlement. This is a message that we have put across our traditional leaders, who at times they continue to allocate pieces of land for people to build and reside. Some of our municipalities, under their jurisdiction, they allow people to build and stay anywhere. I think we must try and tighten that situation so that we move away from disaster-prone areas. And before we can create a settlement, we should allow a thorough process of assessment of the area and allow all engineers to come and assess the area and give us a green light before we build a human settlement. But once again, we must be able to communicate with our people in those rural areas in terms of our warning systems, like KZN did in the recent second round floods. I think they did very well. After getting the early warning system, they went down to convey this message to our communities. And some people were removed and resettled because we're expecting rain. And this rain only damaged the infrastructure, but people already have been reallocated. So that was a first step in the right direction in terms of warning our people, communicating these messages to forewarn them before the disaster. But of course, we can do better in terms of developing our warning system, strengthening our disaster centers, so that we can communicate and circulate information timelessly in order to prevent loss of life and livelihoods. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy President. The third supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable S.A. Buthelezi through the visual platform.
Thank you, Chairperson. I wish to find out, Deputy President, whether the national government will offer any scheme by which people who had lost their life savings through the destruction of their property can be prioritized through subsidies and apply for loans from government or any other partner institution to rebuild their homes at favorable rates. Thank you, Chairperson.
The Honourable Deputy President.
Thank you very much. Well, this is a proposal, a suggestion that may well be considered by government. But as of now, we are looking at the displaced people that must be resettled. And if you look at the economic prospects of these people, these are people who can't afford to build their own houses. Now, these people rely solely on the support of government. But there are those who are earning, who are gainfully employed, that might want some subsidies from government. But the people that we're talking about here, I think these are people that are in need, that have lost everything, that are unable to fend for themselves. They rely solely on the government support for their houses, for the belongings that they've lost, in order to return back to normal life. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honourable Deputy President. The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable OMC Mabuza.
No, it's me, House Chair Mkalipi. Deputy President, 2 weeks ago, your minister in the presidency, Mondlingo Ngubela, reported that government was still collecting data on the extent of the damage before intervening and helping people affected by floods in KZN. To this day, there are still people missing and thousands more are still housed in community halls. By when will you have a full picture as government of what is going on in KwaZulu-Natal? When will you ensure that everyone who has had their homes destroyed have new homes built for them? Because I'm listening to you, Deputy President, you are saying that one of the things that you are doing is to identify land. Some of those people who lost their homes have their own land, but there is no coordinated program, even from the office of the Premier of KwaZulu-Natal. No one knows what needs to happen to those people. Bahleli nje abazi what needs to happen to them. Can you please, because people are sick and tired of long speeches about their plight because of floods in KZN, can you please tell us what needs to be done now as a way forward in order for us as members of parliament and go back and tell people what will happen now going forward? Thank you very much, House Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The Honourable Deputy President.
Thank you very much, House Chair. To the Honourable Member, we really appreciate and understand the sensitivity of this matter. But however, we said in our response that some of the interventions that we're doing are going to happen concurrently. What does that mean? It means we are going to continue still to find the missing people. These communities, some families won't find a closure until such time we find those that are missing. So that will be an ongoing effort on the side of government to help those communities to find their loved ones. Secondly, we need to respond by providing quick services like water. That's why there are water tankers, so that you give people water. As much as you fix the infrastructure, but people need water now. There are these people that have been moved to town halls, city halls, that have been moved from their collapsed structures. These communities and these families cannot stay there forever. In the process, we are rebuilding houses. A few houses have been built. And in terms of the land, suitable land to resettle this process, government has done enough and we've moved very fast. Public Works has identified 4 pieces of land in the area where we can relocate these people. So what I'm trying to say, Honorable Member, is that everything is going to go concurrently. As we search, we provide services, we rebuild. Now, it might happen that some elements of the interventions might lag behind, but it's not that we are doing nothing as government. We said, and we have made an undertaking, that we are going to report progress to Parliament in terms of what we have achieved, what is lagging behind, but we must make it an effort, all of us, to try and assist.
The Secretary will read the first order.
Consideration of report of Standing Committee on Finance, on Financial Sector